have to get down to motherboard level. So I'm going to take the memory out, hard drive, anything that's attached to the motherboard that's going to stop me from getting the whole computer apart. Take the hard drive out here. This computer is very dusty on the inside, so usually I'll take a can of compressed air and blow all the air out of a laptop before I give it back to a customer. But if I know I'm going to take the entire laptop apart, I won't clean anything. I'll clean it on a as I go basis. So most machines, the sequence I like to do it is to get that front top plate off. This allows me to get access to the keyboard and the screen, which are two things I like to take off next. So I'm just inspecting this top plate. A lot of times these top plates, in other words, that plate above the keyboard, a lot of times it's screwed in from the bottom of the machine. So if there are screws on the underside, you want to get them off first. Now I'm trying to pull this off. There's a lot of pressure keeping it on. So I suspect that there's screws holding it in from the bottom. Now even if I'm wrong, I'm still going to unscrew these screws just to be sure. Again, rule number one in repairing laptops: if something feels like it's about to break or is going to break, or you have to put excess pressure on it, then stop what you're doing because something's wrong. Now, I figured since I was under the computer here, just take all the screws out from the bottom. I'm going to need to do that anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. If anybody's wondering why this video is a little different than the other videos as far as me narrating it, I'm not speaking in it in real time. This is a dub over on the narration. I did this live at the shop during work hours, so I didn't have time to close everything up and make sure there was no distractions. You might see my dad walking around in the background over there. Okay, pulled the CD drive out there. I'm just going to go ahead and unscrew all the screws from the bottom, every screw that I see. Now, I'm kind of not being very careful where I'm putting the screws as I take them out, because on Toshiba laptops there are labels next to every screw hole. It tells you exactly what screw goes in each hole, so you can kind of put them all into a big pile and then put all the correct screws in at the end. Now, another reason why I'm not pulling those screws out, I'm just unscrewing them, making them loose, is because they're so dusty that the magnetic force of them is not active now, so I'm just going to turn them all over and pour all the screws out, because the tip of my screwdriver is actually magnetic, but it wasn't pulling any of these screws up. So there's a couple screws coming out. Now again, I'm going to try to take the plate off right onto the screen there. Usually an easy way is to get it right at that hinge where I first had the screwdriver. Now just keep finessing it till you find out where you actually are able to pull it off. You don't want to force anything. The plastic breaks real easy. So just take your time and find out where the plate is going to come up the easiest. Now, I'm still suspecting there's screws holding this in. There's two screws in the back. I'm going to take them out now just in case they're holding something in, but I don't think that they are. Now, sometimes that plate is held in from the bottom with plastic clips. So if you see any clips on the bottom, you can try to pry them off from the bottom. But in this case, still no luck. So there's no screws holding it in now. There's got to be a way to just pull it off. So there we go. And it came off real easy after that. Or fairly easy. You might be able to see all the dust in that computer. It's pretty bad. Take the two screws off that are holding the keyboard on. They're usually tinier screws. And then the ribbon cable's fastened in there. You just got to pull the little bracket off and take the ribbon cable out. Next thing I'm doing is taking off the screen. Now you'll notice the two wires, not where my hands are, but on the other side of the screen, over there. Two black and white wire going to the wireless card. Probably would have been a better idea if I took those wires off of the wireless card before I unscrewed the screen. This way I don't have to do a balancing act with the screen as I'm taking those wires off. But okay, now there's the ribbon cable that's actually the LCD cable. It's attached to the motherboard. Pulling that off. And then the two antennas, which actually come off the wireless card, they go to the top of the screen, through the bottom all the way to up the side and up to the top. And now the screen is free to come off. And I put that off in a safe place on the side where I'm not going to bang it. Nothing's going to happen to it. Now I just have the top and bottom plate to take off before I get to the motherboard. And the wireless card, which I'm pulling out right now. I'm playing background music in this video just to keep it a little more interesting. So this probably isn't going to be the format I do for every video, but I'll do it for now. And then I like to take any ribbon cables that are attached off, because if I'm going to be pulling the top plate of this computer off of the bottom plate to get to the motherboard, you want to make sure that no ribbon cables are connected, because if you break them, they're not fun to repair. You probably have to order a new one. Okay, so just find a spot along the edge where the laptop will come apart easily. I use my fingernail because it's not going to scratch anything. I'm just going to unplug the modem card from down there, just in case that causes a problem. And I'm just going to keep searching for the easiest corner to get apart and then go from there, kind of like how we did the plate under the key or above the keyboard under the screen. Okay, it's having a little trouble getting it apart. So just want to make sure, if you're having any trouble getting these two sides apart, make sure there's no screws holding them together. And once you're doubly sure of that, then you can start putting a little more pressure. But not enough where you think you're going to break something. Just enough to get the job done. And then eventually, it'll come apart. Eventually, you'll hit the right latch. Everything will come apart okay. Now, see, it wasn't coming apart. I noticed there was still one screw in there. So let's get that out of the picture. Try it again. And there's the other culprit. And there we go. Just be careful with those ribbon cables that they don't break. Now we have a very dusty motherboard here. First thing I'm going to do is take it outside, blow it off with some compressed air. I'll be right back. There we go, nice and clean. I'm also going to take a paintbrush here and just get any of the residual dust off. Always take the opportunity when you have these laptops apart to dust them out. I'm actually going to take the wet dry vac I have in the back there, turn it on blow, set it on to blow, and then just really give it a good blast with some air. Make sure all the dust is out of there. I like to work with clean materials, clean laptops. It's always more satisfying to get your hands all dirty and putting it all back together in the same state you took it apart. It's nicer to get it back in a cleaner state, put it all back together, give the customer a nice clean machine back. I use like a $25 Stinger wet dry vac from Home Depot. Works just fine. Been using it in the shop for, over a year now. Replace the bag every couple months. Thing's good as new. So it's a great little device. Okay, now I'm going to take a look here, see exactly what's going on. There's the power jack. I like working with these power jacks that are connected to the motherboard by wires. So there shouldn't be too much wrong with this one. We're going to take a look at it. Not really too much that could go wrong when there's two wires just sitting there right at the jack. But in this case, and I'll show you the camera a close-up of it, the pin is not really making a connection with the back contact on that jack. I'm just making sure that if I spin the pin inside that jack, just making sure that my diagnosis is correct and that the pin is just not making a real good connection. Going to take the soldering iron now, get it heated up. This way, when I'm ready to solder on there, everything will be hot. Okay, there's the jack and the tip. And it's not really in focus, but the tip goes all the way through to the end, to the back of the jack. And you can't really see it, but I'm going to basically take some solder, put it on right in the middle there, that circle in the middle, and solder it to another point of contact that I know is going into the motherboard. Just inspecting it, I want to make sure that my diagnosis is correct, and then we'll start soldering. Now that wire from the end of the jack, as you see, it goes down where the CPU fan is through to the bottom of the motherboard, and it connects to